Hello, guys, and welcome to Rise. I am so delighted to have here one more speaker from The Secret, and he is a superstar. His name is Hale Dwoskin, and he's the author of the New York best-time seller, The Sedona Method, and the co-author of Happiness is Free and It's Easier Than You Think, with Lester Levinson. He's one of the featured teachers in the book and movie phenomena, The Secret, as well as a featured teacher in The Greatest Secret. He's also featured in the movie Letting Go. Hale is the director of training, chief teacher and spokesperson of Sedona Training Associates, part of learningstrategies.com, an organization created to promote the emotional releasing techniques inspired by his friend, mentor, and teacher, Lester Levinson. He's a founding member of the Transformational Leadership Council. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Well, thanks for having me.
It's such a pleasure. Thank you for accepting the invitation. I am thrilled to dive into our topic today. And we call it, right, enlightenment after trauma. And I really like this thread, right, that trauma can actually lead into enlightenment.
Yes.
And yeah, I would love you to dive right in.
Well, sure. So first off, in my experience, there are levels of trauma. There's the level of trauma that most of us are aware of, which is something happens to us and it causes tremendous distress at the time, which leaves a residue in our experience. And there are various techniques that help you deal with that trauma, some more effective than others. And so that level of trauma is usually what people think of when they think of trauma. Mm-hmm. But there's a deeper trauma that everyone's experiencing every moment. And that is the trauma of believing that we are a limited, separate person identified or living in a body and trapped in all its limitations. In other words, if we think we're a body, we're subject to birth, subject to death, subject to all sorts of traumas, and also just subject to this background sense of feeling incomplete and insecure all the time. And it's only when we recognize that we are not just a person, we're not just a bag of bones, that we are that pure being awareness that's at the heart of every experience, where that only at that point does true healing from trauma actually begin. Because if you're just healing a specific incident, then, and it's still within that whole context of being this limited person that has traumas that they have to get over, there can be tremendous benefit in that. And I highly recommend that everyone do that, including the wonderful work that you do. It's incredible. It's beautiful that we're all interested in supporting ourselves. And there are wonderful ways of doing that. However, it's also really important to recognize that the key to being free of all psychological, emotional suffering is to recognize the truth of who or what you are. Really, not you as a person, but you as that true essence of beingness. That not only does it help you free yourself of all trauma, but it also helps you live a life filled with the happiness and peace and love and joy that is your basic nature. we look for love, we look for happiness, we look for peace in our circumstances in life. And we never find it there because we are the source of our own happiness. We, when I say we, I mean that pure awareness that you are, that I am, that we all share. That is actually our true source of happiness and peace and love. So it's all about letting go of our belief in being a separate individual and all the traumas that come with that, and recognizing the truth of who or what we are.
This is so beautifully said and spot on. I really couldn't agree more that trauma is not only the one event that you can kind of say life was divided to before and after. It can also be just a collection of beliefs and conditionings and ideas that we inherited either from epigenetics, born with through our lineage, or through our early experience in life. And you know, what I've been contemplating a lot about is that every child comes to the world as a pure being of unconditional love, right? I mean, you can look in the eyes of a baby and you just see love.
Yes.
And we all have very basic needs that, besides the obvious of survival, which are the need for safety, the need for love, the need for belonging, the need for connection, the need for acceptance. And for so many of us, those needs were not fully met for whatever reason. And without blaming, without pointing fingers, but, you know, we all come in, you know, through parents that were not conscious, that, you know, also been a product of the culture that we grew up in. And so I think that all of us start this journey of life with very distorted views about ourselves, right?
No, totally.
Yeah, and this is really
and
what
the desire for love or connection or caring is actually hardwired into all of our systems, as is the desire to be safe. However, you can actually discover that there's something beyond the need for those things. There's something beyond that threatened feeling that comes from feeling unsafe, and that feeling of lack that comes from thinking you need to find love outside of yourself. And when you let that go, or see through it by recognizing the truth of who or what you are, then those basic needs become something very different. Instead of something that's motivating all your thinking and feeling and behavior and the way you see life, they become something that you feel like is already fulfilled, no matter what your life circumstances are. In other words, it doesn't mean that people are always going to approve of you or like you or care for you. People sometimes do and sometimes don't. Now, obviously, as a young child, we don't have the discernment to recognize that. But now, as adults, we have the ability to recognize that we are the source of our own love and safety. And as we recognize that, we stop looking for it outside of ourselves, and we bring love to our relationships. We bring safety to our living experience. And so the more we let go of wanting love and safety, the more we actually we're experiencing it directly in our experience, moment to moment.
Right. You know, for me, I found that when healing really clicked and kind of I could feel it embodied in my body was when I felt that direct connection to the divine, to call it God or spirit or all that is. There's many names to describe this energy that that is the divine. And when I felt that pure connection, I felt access to all that abundant love and safety and all of that. So I remember even with my connection to Mother Earth, when I was going through some very intense practices, when I had a moment to lie down on Mother Earth, really heart to heart, and feel that connection, that I'm the earth and the earth is in me,
Yes.
that I could feel that I have it in me, that I am part of the whole, that I am connected, and it felt more connection than I had with my biological parents, for instance.
Yes.
Yeah, so
Yeah, that which is most intimate, even more intimate than your body or your breath,
mm,
is that exquisite being that is your essence. You might call it, we give it many names: divine connection, Gaia, Mother Earth, or beingness, awareness, truth, love. But that is always right here, right now, even in the midst of traumatic circumstances. If you think about your life, and there is something that is the same through every experience, whether when you were a young girl or boy, when you were, as you got older, any experience, even you look at the best experiences and the worst experiences, and there was still something that was aware of those experiences,
mm,
but unchanged by them. That is ageless, timeless, dimensionless, yet ever new and always available. And that essence is the source of love, power, beauty. When we see something beautiful in the world, it's because we're in touch with that inner beauty that is natural to all of us. And so it's not about manipulating or changing our external circumstances before we can feel better. It's about recognizing that truth within ourselves. And then what naturally happens is whatever source we believe we have for our past traumas, whatever reasons we feel or justifications we have, because many of us have really good reasons to feel traumatized by past events. But those reasons start to dissolve when you realize that you are the changeless part of the experience, not the changeful part. The changeful part is where suffering lies. The changeless part of experience is imperturbable,
mm,
is your source of strength, your source of certainty. And it's what illuminates every experience. So as you recognize that for yourself, then your life naturally transforms. And you're also less susceptible to getting caught in the same patterns. When we believe we're a limited person, not this changeless essence, then anything that even vaguely reminds us of past trauma triggers the trauma and it becomes self-reinforcing. Whereas the more you recognize that you are that which that is the changeless part of all this experience, as you recognize that, then even the things that are happening now in our experience don't disturb that inner peace and that inner joy and that inner love.
mhm. It's almost like if you find the essence of your being, if you really tap into that, then a storm can happen on the outside, but you are anchored um, in that essence of who you are, and you're not moved away by the storm. you can rest in peace while the storm is happening, right?
Yes, exactly. Exactly. And storms don't stop.
They never stop.
The nature of life is ups and downs. Things sometimes go the way you want them to, and sometimes don't. Anyone tells you that life changes, well, let me explain. Anyone tells you that you need to manipulate your life in order to feel better is just reinforcing your sense of suffering. But if you take your certainty from within, then you're right. It's kind of like when there's a big storm on the ocean, you don't have to go that far under the water, and there's still stillness, peace. And that is a great analogy for what's true for you. Or clouds in the sky, they seem to obstruct the sun. Yes, maybe from the perspective of a limited person looking up at the sky, but from the perspective of the sun that you are, the clouds are just a beautiful presence in the sky. They're not a problem. There's no obstruction for the sun. The sun is always beyond the clouds and never subject to their veiling.
And the clouds are ever changing, right? So
yes, ever changing.
Ever changing. So also no attachment to what we like to sometimes label good and bad, right? Oh, this is good. I want to hang on to it. Oh, this is bad. I want it out. I want it. I've got an aversion.
Exactly. It's like trying to manipulate clouds. That if you think about that, that's never going to work.
Right. And what I like about what you describe is that I know for myself, I've done a lot of inner work for many, many years. And earlier this year, I was amazed to actually watch almost from outside of myself how my life ran when I was diagnosed with cancer. And as of course I went through the shock and kind of it disrupt my flow of all my priorities, all my normal life.
Of course,
all of a sudden, it has that power. But at the same time, I had so much trust and so much inner peace. In fact, I had my best meditations during those 5 days where I've been told that I've got cancer, but I did not know what it's doing in my body. And the odds were not very great for me because I knew that I had it for years in my body. And I was previously misdiagnosed a couple of years before. And so the odds were not looking good as far as I could think about it at that period of time when I was uncertain. And yet there was no fear or no victimhood that I was part of. I was kind of watching everything from the outside, trusting the process, trusting that life is always happening for me and not to me, and that there is a bigger picture and that there is something bigger at plan, and just surrendering to the process. And that was really, really empowering for me to go through that myself and really almost reap the fruits of my work.
Yes.
Right? Because I mean, if the same situation would happen to me, say 10 years ago, I would be a mess. I would be in emotional roller coaster. I would be in total fear. I would be in a different place. So it's just a little inspiration that no matter what happens on the outside, and not to underestimate events that can really be emotionally triggering and I mean, sure, some events may require grief and really going down the rabbit hole of the emotional impact that they have. But nevertheless, when when I understand that, I could almost shorten that process of realizing that it is a gift, a blessing in disguise. I could see it right there and then in the midst of it all.
That's beautiful. I had an similar experience in 1998. I was diagnosed. I had just led a seminar that was a very high seminar for about 40 people. And within 24 hours, I was actually misdiagnosed with just an ear infection. And 24 hours later, I was in the emergency room in a hospital with severe meningitis, encephalitis, and the doctors weren't sure I was going to live. And there was also extreme pain. And it was interesting being in the hospital. I think I was there for about 7 days. And the recovery process took months. And there was also doubt whether or not I was going to live. Lester Levinson, my mentor, the man who inspired the work that I do, at least the beginnings of it, used to say that you should be able to watch your body go through extreme trauma and be undisturbed by it. And this was one of my first experiences of that. I always had a little doubt. I don't know. I don't know if I could do that. And what happened was I found that I was in complete peace throughout the entire experience. And I knew that the body was going to end or not. But I was not disturbed by it. And it was a little like watching what was going on. I agree. I actually find that most of my experience has that sense of being the witness as opposed to being locked into whatever's being experienced. I recognize that I am that which is aware of it, not that which feels subject to it.
I love that. And with that comes full acceptance of what is.
Yes.
Right.
Absolutely.
And so I really want to hear about the Sedona Method. I have heard that name, that phrase for many years, and here I'm talking to the right person. So,
well, the Sedona Method is a set of tools that shows you and everyone how to tap a natural ability that we all have that we sometimes forget to use, which is our ability to let go of unwanted or limiting thoughts and feelings and beliefs. It's also a way to see through our limitations, our beliefs, our ideas about ourselves, including the idea that we're a separate individual. And it's a way to discover that truth of who or what we really are beyond the story, beyond the trauma, beyond all that seems to be holding us back. And it's based on the premise that feelings and thoughts are just that. They're not you. They're not facts. And you can let them go. And it's also based on the knowingness that you already are that wholeness, that perfection, that peace, that joy that we often look away from and try to find in life. And so there are a series of tools and techniques that we give people that help them experience this for themselves and then know how they can continue to bring themselves to that experience of letting go whenever they need to. And young children do this naturally. You mentioned young children, the love you see in their eyes. I love being around young children because I spontaneously see as they see. That's one of the things that happens. And there's this spontaneous outpouring of that same love within ourselves because there is that connection there that we all share. But what happens is when children mature, in quotes, into adulthood, we as the adults train them out of this natural exuberance, this natural love and connectedness. And we also train them out of this natural ability. Young children let go naturally. If you've ever been around young children, you've probably seen them fall down and then look around to see if they need to be upset. If they catch someone's eye, oh, then they get the kiss they want or whatever the attention they want, and they just drop it. Or they have a knockdown, drag out fight with a friend, and they'll say, I'm never going to play with you again. And 10 minutes later, they're playing again like nothing ever happened. That natural ability to move beyond the trauma of the moment and simply let go, we all came in with. And unfortunately, for most of us, we've lost touch with it to varying degrees. Some of us have stayed somewhat in touch with the ability, but most of us have lost most of that ability to just spontaneously let go of things and let them pass through experience. And what the Sedona method does is it leads you experientially back into that natural flow, that natural way of being. And it doesn't just give you an experience of it. It gives you simple tools and techniques and perspectives that helps you keep doing that on your own. That when we do our seminars, when people get our audio programs or watch our movie or do anything having to do with interacting with us, the tension is always to create independence, so that whoever studies this process can then incorporate it more and more into their own direct experience until it stops feeling like a process. It becomes a natural way of living again.
I love that. So it's a retraining or rewiring the brain into new neurological pathways that are a bit different to what we used to, right?
Yes, it has to do with neuroplasticity. It also has to do with retraining our nervous system and our body, but it also has to do with something that's more basic than that. The body is, in my experience, an outpicturing of the mind. And so is our world. It's really the mind-body world is one thing, mind being primary. And so when you allow yourself to transform your mind, that naturally changes the way the brain functions, the way the body functions, and the way you function in life. So it's actually both. You're working on the physical, the emotional, the spiritual, and something that's beyond all three of those, which defies definition, defies description, but it is quite natural. It's something that when you discover for yourself, however you do that, and most of you who are listening to this or watching this have had tastes of this, and you may have not recognized it at the time. But those experiences that you've had in your life that have been the most beautiful or loving or happy were the times that your mind got out of the way, and that naturally cleared up often the external circumstances. And if it didn't, it totally changed your relationship to them. So even if circumstances weren't going the way you want them to, you felt more in control, more at ease, more light, more certainty. Now, those, for most of us, they're called peak experiences, and we cherish them and try to get back to them. But what's possible is for them no longer to be so unusual. You can live life in that openness, in that beauty, in that love, in that peace, and in that power. There's a tremendous power in living from your own true, authentic nature. And that power has the ability to transform everything you experience.
Yeah, beautifully said. And can you give us an example of a process or a certain tool, just so we have a taste of what it is?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I'd actually be thrilled to do that.
Thank you.
So I'm going to actually, there are levels of this, but I'm going to jump to it a more advanced level. And I'll explain it, and then I'll take us into the experience of it. And then and then we'll see where we go from there. How does that sound?
Yeah, sounds great. Let's do it.
Okay, good. So first off, let me explain what I'll be doing. I've mentioned several times that we are not our thoughts and feelings and beliefs and ideas about ourselves. We are that which is aware of them. And this is something that makes sense if you think about it, but just thinking about it and it making sense is not enough. It has to become your living experience. The more it becomes your living experience, the less there's anything for a limiting thought or feeling or belief to hook onto. So we'll explore that. And then the other thing is, when you allow yourself to welcome what you're experiencing, or allow or be present with what you're experiencing, what happens is that too makes it harder for you to suffer and hold on. And so I'm going to take us through a process where we'll pick any traumatic event, and then we'll welcome the three key things that keep it locked in place. And those three things are the circumstances themselves, our story that we're telling ourselves about it. If we have any kind of trauma in our lives, it usually has a history, a pedigree, a story. And so you just allow that. It's not so that you're stuck with it. It's the opposite. When you resist things, they persist. But when you welcome or allow it, then they can just simply dissolve or evolve. The next thing we'll welcome is our desire to fix it or change it or control it or do something with or about it. When you're wanting to fix or change things, you have to hold on to it in order to fix or change it. And just our desire to fix and change and resist life is one of the key places that causes trauma or suffering, our resistance to it. And then the other thing we'll welcome is our identification with it. We believe that we are the one who's the star of that story. We forget that we are that which is aware of it, not the one who feels subject to it. So we'll welcome that sense of being identified with it. And when you welcome those three things at the same time, something unhooks inside of us in a very positive way. It sometimes feels like an opening in your chest or your solar plexus or in your gut. You find yourself breathing more deeply, your body starts to relax, you see more clearly, you hear more clearly, and you feel this inner smile, this joy, this peace, this love that's always right here, but we don't always experience it. So I'll take us through this process. We'll go through it relatively quickly, and then I can explain more about it afterwards. So in this moment, and by the way, I'm going to do this with everyone, so you don't need to respond to this out loud. I'm going to do this as more of a group process for everyone. So in this moment, could you just simply pause or stop? Often that's just that in itself is enough to allow things to start to unhook. We go through life kind of leaning into experience, and we start to sit back even a little, things start to unhook. And then could you just allow or welcome whatever is in this moment? Or just simply allow yourself to be. And then in this moment, allow yourself to think of some limitation or trauma from the past that still you may find disturbs you in some way or causes changes in behavior or experience. Think of something in your life that you're wanting to change or improve. And it doesn't matter what it is. Just take the first thing that comes to mind. And then in this moment, could you just be present with whatever is arising? Notice it. Welcome it. Notice that there's a part of you that is already allowing of that, is already uninvolved in it, is just watching it. And then could you also welcome any wanting to fix it, change it, control it, understand it, any resistance you may have to it or about it? Could you welcome any wanting to do anything with or about it? Could you allow that? Be present with it. Notice it. Or just simply notice that there's a part of you that's already doing that spontaneously without effort. And then could you also welcome that sense that it's personal about you or who you are? That sense of identifying with the story or the event or the thoughts or the feelings. Could you just be present with that? Allow that. Notice it. And then as best you can, just for now, if there's still any holding on or holding back, could you just let it go? Set it free. Allow it to unravel. Would you? When? And then to take it a little further, just look at everything we just focused on and everything you just experienced. And just simply check. Are you that? Or are you that which is aware? If you really are open and look, you'll start to see that you aren't actually any of that. Or at least not only that. You are that being, awareness or presence or knowingness that is already whole and complete. So let's run through that one more time. In this moment, could you just simply focus on that same thing again? If it's complete, if there's no more feeling about it, then pick something else. And could you just allow it, welcome it, be present with it as best you can? Or just simply notice that there's a part of you that is already accepting of it as it is, allowing of it as it is, aware of it as it is. And then could you also welcome any wanting to do anything with or about it? Could you allow that? Be present with it. Or just simply notice that there's a part of you that naturally does that without effort. And then could you welcome as well, or allow as well, or be present with as well, that sense of it's all about me. I'm the center of that whole story. Any sense of identification. Or could you just notice that there's a part of you that's aware of that sense of me, yet not bound by it? And then if there's any holding on or holding back, could you just set it free, let it go? Would you? When? And then could you just simply check? Are you actually any of that? Or are you awareness, beingness, knowingness, isness? And for a moment, could you just abide as or rest as that knowing awareness, that beingness, that love or light and beauty that you already are? Okay, good. So if you were doing this on your own, you would keep running through that process or cycling through that as many times as you needed to until you felt that inner sense of being free of whatever it was that you were struggling with. And more importantly, or just as importantly, until you have this inner recognition of that you are not the drama or the story or the problem. You are that pure awareness, that light or beingness. That is the ultimate gift that keeps giving.
Thank you for this reminder. And I really like this process. It's very simple, which I always believe in simple. And it really creates that expansion of or spaciousness to remove that hook, as you said, from the event or the narrative
Right.
or the story, and really create that other view of the witness that is
Yes.
the pure awareness. And when we create that spaciousness, it's then easy or easier to identify that which have happened as not defining who we are, or is not
Yes.
staying in the essence of who we are,
Yes. Yes.
right? Yeah. And that when you ask, would you let it go? And then you ask when, I like that, because it brings back that that empowerment that we actually
Yes. Yes.
have that power. We do have that power to just simply decide to let it go. And it's
Yes.
as
Yes.
easy as that,
Absolutely.
right?
It is.
We just, just have to make that that conscious decision and do it, right?
Yes. Absolutely.
Yeah, that's very beautiful. And so, we are coming to the end of this beautiful and enlightening conversation. I really enjoyed it, and I think it's really contains so much value. So thank you for that. And if people wanna work with you, or know more about the Sedona method, or find you, what's the best way?
Well, the best way is go to our website, sedona.com/, I think it's Rise Conference. I don't remember the link. Do you remember the link?
I'm gonna have it embedded.
Oh, you can have it
So
embedded.
yeah.
Okay. I don't remember the link. I believe it's Rise Summit. That's it. It's sedona.com/Rise Summit. And Sedona is spelled like the city in Arizona. So, and we also have a YouTube channel and a Facebook page where we have lots of free content. So wherever you go, if you just Google the Sedona Method, you can't miss us.
Yeah, I know the name is definitely have been leading in the field of transformation for many years.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. Thank you so much, and blessings on your journey, and thank you for the wonderful work you're doing in the world.
Oh, well, thank you too. Good luck with all your ventures. I hope the book is a huge success.
Thank you so much, and
Thank you.
ciao for now.